So we're here to talk through the Sudoku by Jonas Gleim called 18-karat diamonds, which have a 1 through 8 pattern in the two diamond shapes, and then it looks like 2 4s, 2 9s, and these sort of extra clues, including a single 2, single 6. So the repeated digits, particularly the 4s, where there are also 4s in the diamonds, are the best thing to look at. And looking across these, we get a 4, which gives me this 4, which gives me this 4, puts a 4 in one of these cells, 4 in one of these cells. The 9s don't actually work as much here, except maybe, let's see, in this corner we've got a 9 in these cells. That still looks pretty open, but there is a 9 up here. So instead, this may be a case where it's helpful to think about this geometry, particularly after some of these 4s are placed. We've now marked these into sort of triangle shapes where if you think about eliminations, this 3, for instance, sees all 3 of those cells, as does this 9, so 3 and 9 have to come over to here. There's nothing I can actually do with that looking that way, but if I look at the 6, the same thinking comes this way. 6 eliminates all these. I'm now looking for something else about the digit 6. That gives me this note, but it gives me this sure 6. What will that do? I'm now blocking off more of this lower right box, so I'm trying to see if there's something about that, and actually the same way the 6 is eliminated. Look, the 2 and 6 are in the same spots in the 8th row and 8th column. So these cells were a 2-6 pair at the start if we'd fully marked our notes, but right now, having placed that 6, we can place this 2. That places this 2, puts a 2 in here. We've got a 2 coming up here. On this side, the same elimination thinking is useful. Actually, 2 and 7 are not over here, and when you see this 2 coming here, very quickly there's a 2 in this cell, a 7 down here that actually works with the progress we made before, puts in this 2. That 7 elimination doesn't do more at the moment, but I get a 2 up here in these cells. Can look this way with this digit 8 and say that there is an 8 in one of these cells, so that's all good for our normal notation. What are some other things we can get? Well, now in this bottom box, that 9 note is something we can add, and 1 and 7 and 8 are the remaining digits. Now 7 sees this cell that has a lot of opens, and the 7s on the other side of the grid aren't pointing to there. 1 looks like an interesting digit, and 1's an interesting digit for the same reason 5 is an interesting digit. The start 5 has a note we can place in these cells because of how this eliminates in the row and column, and 1s have that same thing happening over here. So 1s come like this and like this. So this has to be a 1, which means this is a 1 here for sure, which means we can put in that 7 note. That 1 coming over to here means there's a 1 in this space in this box. Do we have more than that even? This 5 note puts in this 5 note, and where we'd actually looked at 6s before, I actually don't want to miss that there's a 6 note I can put in this top space, which is coming from these eliminations. And here's actually, I think the next thing I meant to see is there's a triple in this upper left box of 5, 6, 9. It's revealed by this 2, 3 set, and actually this right now is a naked single of a 2. We can put in that 2, put in that 3, 3 comes over here, 2 comes up. So those all look good, and we've honestly put a lot of my normal notes in the grid, so this doesn't look like a moment for more notes. I'm just seeing here like 5 and 9 have to come in here, but I don't have more of those. 6 can go into this cell. Yeah, I mean, this is sometimes where you want to flip not to just looking at the notes you have, but what's missing. So let's look at this corner and see if that's helpful. I've got 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 9, so 3, 7, and 8 are what I'm looking for. I've got a 7 that's going to be in these spaces, and actually I'll look at the cell. 3 and 7 are seen by it, so this cell can only be an 8. This is a naked single by seeing the missings, where I've got to put 3, 7 down in the bottom. So this being an 8 moves this over to be 7 and 8, puts up this 9. So I now actually get a 9 over here, get a 9 in this cell. That now means I do have a 3 up here, puts in this 3. This is 7 and 8, and actually I think, let me just undo a step. The same way there is a naked single here, this is a little maybe easier because actually this 2 is placed. This area is missing 5, 7, and 8, and 5 and 7 are seen here. So actually both of these are naked single 8s after you're reasonably through the puzzle. And right now, let's say after I get this pointing 3, it's much clearer that this has to be 8, 7, 8. So this 8, 7 left in these cells, and 5 across what's remaining. What can we do with that progress? Well, we now have to have an 8 in one of these. We have an 8 across these, which now actually blocks this off. So this has to be 5 and 3 to finish this space. That 3 now means there's a 3 over here. There's also a 3 down here. The 5 is more key because it puts in this 5. Forces this 1, forces this 7. The space is 6 and 7, so 7's on the right, 6 is on the left. That puts in the 6, which now forces this 9, 5 combo. 6 puts in this other 6, puts in a 6 down here. The 5 is going to put a 5 note in these cells, and the 9 is going to put a 9 note across these cells. This column has its last digit as a 9. That also puts a 9 across these cells. And now we see we have the 4th and 6th columns represented by 9 clues. So this eliminates the 9 option here, puts an 8, 9, puts an 8, moves over the 4, moves over this 4. This is now 3 with 1. In here we have 1 and 5 to go, so we can actually mark that in. We then have 3 and 7 as the remaining spaces. So I know this is a 3, 7. I've got a 7 over here. It's not yet doing enough for me to work off of it. Got 1, 3, and 8 over in this space. The 5, 7 here is a little limiting, so I think it's going to come more from looking at this top row, which has to have, after we cleared off that node, 5 and 7 to go, and 5 is down below, so 7 pushing over this 5, forcing in this 7, forcing in this 1. Last 5 can go here, puts in the 5, moves up this 1, 3 of 8, that 8 moving up this 8, 7 with 6, another 7 here. Those 3s come across, put in a 3, 1, put in this 1. We have 5 with 9, and 9 with 6, and we're through the grid. So fun puzzle from Jonas, a good set of pairs and naked singles to work through the grid, but a case where if you looked at the geometry carefully, scan through the grid in different ways, you can make some of those points of progress. Still a challenging Thursday puzzle, so hopefully you got something from watching this video, and thanks Jonas for the grid. We'll see you again soon.